Hello everyone. Welcome to the video lecture on History of Early Films. This video lecture is part of the first module of the certificate course Introduction to Film Studies. Just like how we say Rome was not built in a day, cinema was also not the invention that happened out of the blue one sudden day. A lot of technological, scientific and performative advancements that happened in the 19th century laid the foundation of cinema. It is also the result of many political, cultural, economic and social changes that shaped cinema in the 19th century. Usually, we refer to the 19th century period that laid the foundation of cinema as the pre-cinema period. This roughly begins with 1827 when the photography and the art and the science of photography was developed. The pre-cinema period roughly begins with the invention of photography by the French inventor Joseph Niepce. This happened in 1827. From 1827, a lot of experiments were done by scientists, inventors and photographers who were curious to explore how the still image could be made to move. Louis Daguerre is one of them. Another important personality is the British photographer Muybridge. Many cinema historians consider Muybridge to be the father of the moving image. It is his very famous experiments made on the sequential still images of a trotting horse that led to the acceptance of the biological concept of persistence of vision. Persistence of vision is an important concept with regard to the foundation of moving image. This concept underlines the principle that when a sequence of still images are projected onto a camera equipment, for Muybridge it was the supraxiscope. Let it be any camera equipment. At a particular speed, for cinema it is usually 24 frames per second. There is an impression of movement created in the retina of the human eye. This gets recorded in the human mind as a moving image. This biological concept of the persistence of vision was later exploited by many others, including astronomers, scientists and photographers in perfecting the moving image. A lot of instruments came about, among which the kinetoscope developed by Thomas Alva Edison is the most significant. We might have heard of Edison as the inventor of the light bulb. But Edison, did you know, was also the first person who realized the commercial and entertainment potential of cinema. He set up the first perfect movie theater called the Black Maria in 1893 in New Jersey, USA. Here, he did a lot of experiments on perfecting the movie image. One of the limitations of Edison's kinetoscope was that it was very heavy and hence not very portable. And another thing was that only one person could watch the movie at a time. A reinvention of the kinetoscope happened with the Lumiere brothers, Auguste Lumiere and Louis Lumiere, who brought about a new device called the cinematograph. Though we cannot pinpoint one particular date as the birth of cinema, usually it is 28th of December 1895 when the first public screening of films happened in Grand Café Hotel, Paris, that we credit the birth of cinema. It was a very small room, just a hall called the Indian Parlour of the Grand Café Hotel in Paris that the first screening took place. Only 33 spectators were present and the 10 actuality films produced by the Lumiere brothers were showcased there. The Lumiere cinematograph, as the instrument came to be known later, was used for the projection. The cinematograph is actually a combination of a portable camera and a portable projector. The Lumiere films are usually known as actuality films. It is a group of 10 films that they showcased in the first screening in 1895. Some of the films that were screened include Workers Leaving the Lumiere Factory, Baby's Breakfast, Blacksmiths, Bathing in the Sea, and the like. Let us watch one of the Lumiere films that were showcased then. It is very significant that we know some of the features of the Lumiere films that were showcased. All of the Lumiere films were silent, except when the situation demanded sometimes live commentary or music, which was also live, was added to the screening. They were all shot on location and mostly showcased real events and not staged events. There are also Lumiere films that did stage events for their purpose. Another important feature of the Lumiere films is that the length of all of these films are less than a minute. These are some of the major features that mark the Lumiere films. Now, after 1895, the Lumiere films gained much popularity, and the Lumiere films, Lumiere brothers, and the Lumiere cinematograph began to revolve the world with their films. Many famous cities in the world, including New York, London, Montreal, and even Bombay, showcased all of these films. In India, the first screening of films happened in the Watson's Hotel in Bombay. Marius Sestier, a Western exhibitioner, brought the Lumiere cinematograph to the hotel to display his film. Arrival of a Train is one of the Lumiere films that were showcased then. Again, after 1896, cinema gained a lot of popularity, not just in India, not just in France, but all across the world. Thus, by 1905, almost 1,500 Lumiere films and other films by other inventors were portrayed. Cinema had already become the medium of the upcoming century then, which was the 20th century. Apart from the Lumiere brothers, there are also other stalwarts who made cinema the medium of 20th century. One of them is the French director Georges Méliès. Méliès experimented on cinema in a number of ways. He brought elements of magic, fantasy, and techniques like hand coloring of the frames, dissolves, fades, etc. right from 1902. One of his masterpieces is A Trip to the Moon, considered as the first science fiction film ever made. Another important American director is Edwin S. Potter. Potter made as huge as 200 films in just a span of 20 years, that is the first 2 decades of the 20th century. One of his very important films is The Life of the American Fireman, and another one is The Great Train Robbery. The Great Train Robbery is considered to be a precursor of the Western as a genre in Hollywood cinema. Another important American director is D.W. Griffith. Griffith gave importance to cinema as a medium for narration, and narrative cinema became very popular from his films. One of his important movies include The Birth of a Nation, which came about in 1915 and represented the story of the American Civil War. By the first decade of the 20th century, permanent movie theatres intended to showcase cinema as a medium came to be established all across the world. We earlier mentioned about Edison's Black Maria in New Jersey, USA. This went on as a movement, and many of the European and American cities gained their first theatres. Some of them were named Nickelodeons, owing to the price that a person had to pay in order to watch these films. This was 1 nickel, which is equal to 5 cents in American currency, and hence the name Nickelodeon. Thus, theatres were established and cinema found its place in human history right by the second decade of 20th century. As we mentioned earlier, it is in 1896 that the first public screening happened in India, which was in Bombay. Watching the Lumiere films and the Lumiere cinematograph, H.S. Phadwadekar, who was a professional portrait photographer, purchased a Lumiere cinematograph. Using this, he captured a real wrestling match that happened in Bombay in 1899. This short documentary film is titled The Wrestlers and could be thought of as the first indigenous Indian attempt at making a film. However, the first full-length feature film in India came about only in 1913. This was Raja Harishchandra and was made in The Silent Milieu of Marathi Linguistic Circle by Dada Sahib Phalke, the father of Indian cinema as we know him today. But the sound film came to India only as late as in 1931. This was Alam Ara. The history of early film extends from the pre-cinema period to the first public screening in France in 1895 and from 1895 to 1920s when the first sound film was produced. It was a talkie called The Jazz Singer and it came about in the USA. A lot of developments with regard to narrative styles, techniques used, technology used, etc. came about in cinema during this long period. It also includes very interesting movements that the world cinema has seen. We will look into each of these movements in the coming lectures. So, when I conclude, I just want to remind you about what we have covered today. We began from the pre-cinema period, moved on to talk about the stalwarts who perfected the motion picture. Then we came to the first public screening of the Lumiere films, the Lumiere cinematograph, the features of Lumiere films, how they were spread across the world, how they came to India and gained the popular form of the feature film. We know India is no less compared to the European nations and America when it comes to film production. Please don't forget to think about answering the multiple choice questions that are attached. I'll be also attaching some lecture notes in the description below. I hope you found this video useful. Let us meet for the next lecture again. Thank you and goodbye for now.